Welcome to the Empowered Money Girl, where we break down the barriers to financial confidence, celebrate women's wins, and reveal the secrets to living boldly and well. I'm your host, Josette Mandela. So I have a question for you. Have you ever built something from the ground up, or wanted to, but weren't quite sure how to turn that vision into something real, scalable, and successful? Well, today's guest is going to show you exactly what that can look like. I'd love to introduce you to Diana Simmons. She's the co-founder and CEO of Simply Cabinetry, a company she built with her husband, starting from their garage, and has grown into a brand that's redefining the cabinetry experience through streamlined factory direct design and purchasing. With a deep expertise in real estate and franchising, Diana brings both strategy and vision to everything she does. She serves industry professionals and homeowners alike, making premium and luxury cabinetry more accessible without the complexity. She's
Mhm.
also a mom of 3 boys, a former basketball team captain, and someone who truly leads with energy, ownership, and heart. If you're ready to think bigger about what's possible and build something that actually works, you're going to love this conversation.
Mhm.
Please welcome the dynamic and visionary Diana Simmons.
Nice to see you, Josette.
Nice to see you too, Diana. So, can you take us back to the beginning? What was your path like that got you to where you are today?
It's kind of interesting, well, at least I think. But yeah, my husband and I, we actually started in flipping and investment properties back in like '07, '08. But we all know that was kind of the downturn of the market. So we got out by the skin of our teeth on the last one, and we had a bunch of building materials left over. So we started putting those on Facebook, Craigslist, the newspaper, when that was still a thing. Um, And then just from there, people kept coming back to us, especially contractors and builders, because they just didn't have a place to go with something that's affordable or somebody that had the knowledge. And we really didn't know that that was a problem at the time until we started selling it online. And then people kept coming back to us, and we decided to open up an industrial unit. Then our first location had our first boy, second location had our second boy, and then third location had our third boy. So after that, we've kind of just decided, what's next for us. And that's kind of what brought us to the whole franchising model.
Wow, what a story. And I mean, that's amazing. Have a child, have a new
I
location.
know. I said I was done after that. So that's why we're not opening any more ourselves. Well, that's what I think of, anyways.
So, what led you to decide that franchising was the way to go rather than, like you say, opening more stores?
So, I mean, really, my husband and I kind of have a passion for helping other people build something. So that's where it's just like we really get a thrill out of helping people learn how to build something and teaching what we've kind of done. And I just want to find people that are owners that are invested and really help them understand and build some wealth for themselves. So it kind of relates to what you like to talk about, where it's just empowering people, right?
Hmm. And that makes perfect sense. And so you, uh, though you have a core business yourself, you
Mhm.
also like to be able to, shall we say, share the wealth and grow
Yeah.
more people so that they
Yeah.
can do this too.
Yeah. I really see that's where the success is at the end of the day, whether it's helping customers or helping staff members or helping people grow. It's like, well, that's where success really lies in my heart.
Okay. Okay. And
Yeah.
so when it came to putting this all together, you'd mentioned that 2007, 2008, yeah, that was not a good time to be in the
Mm-mm.
real estate market. So did that lead to some money challenges or?
So, I mean, when we were offering like in stock cabinetry, so it's something that people were doing, and that's what happens with like cabinetry. Sometimes it's actually not even a need; it's actually a want when people have things that are happening with their property, or it needs to happen in order to sell their home. So, we have these different tiers where we call simple, premium, and luxury. So it's like a stock, semi-custom, and custom, and depending on the market is where we kind of swing depending on the client's needs. So in a down market, I'd say people still invest in their home because that's their biggest asset. And, sometimes they'll be doing it themselves at that time. So that's where we can come along and we can help guide them through that. Or if they have a professional helping them, we can help them with that too. So it all depends on their wants and needs. And, it kind of works in any market in reality.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So essentially you have a recession-proof business so that
Mhm. Yeah.
and at the same time you're helping people.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, not many people can say that their business can be pretty recession proof. I mean, we call ourselves like the showroom Williams of cabinetry. So at the end of the day, people are still painting their homes, they're still doing their cabinets. So,
Okay. And were you always good with the money or
I mean, I would say that my husband and I, so he always grew up with his dad doing investment properties and everything. So I don't know inherently if I would have done this on my own without him, but after doing it on my own or together and doing it all and growing it all, it's something that I really have a passion with, and we found that we have success in. So, I mean, my dad's family, they started their own machine shop, and my mom, she used to do some babysitting, and she would take care of the home, and she was actually the one that did a lot of the interior designer. Like, she was always the paint lady to go help you pick out paint colors because she just had an eye for that. So I guess I kind of helped to, or have that too. But so we kind of always were doing our own thing. So it was just a matter of finding the right like way to do it and simplify it, and being streamlined is what's really important, especially operationally, right? Especially when you're talking about if there could be downturns in markets. So
so then I take it that the way that you've structured the business is such that you have an emergency fund and different ways of splitting up the income and the expenses so that you always have a pretty reasonable cash flow
yeah,
going
it's
on.
it's always important to know, like in the future what's going to be coming and what's happening down the road. But what's nice about our business too is it is cash flow positive, where like people purchase stuff and we don't buy what they need until they've already purchased. So there's no real inventory or anything. So that's really, and we don't end up like having to purchase the cabinetry or get invoiced for it until after it ships. So it is pretty good in that aspect. And really, our only overhead is like the showrooms. There's rent, and then
Mhm.
a few employees to be able to assist the client. So
Okay.
it's just staying lean, and having the ability to ramp up if you need to. We do have an internal design team too that can help us when we do get busier. So it's offering those different ways and challenges, and making sure you can work lean and efficiently.
Yeah, that sounds like a nice business model. And then when you decided to franchise it, was that a big mind shift for you or
It
was that something you
is.
were thinking, oh,
Well, I mean, we were always kind of had it on our mind. I mean, even if when we opened the doors day one, 15 years ago, people were always asking if we were a franchise, which I think that's kind of a compliment, right?
mhm.
um, but essentially, we just never really had the right structure in order to be able to do that. And like through COVID, we sat and we thought about like how could we make this leaner, more streamlined, more efficient, and that's where we kind of came up with all these different ways of working through things. So it was just really important to make sure that we're doing it the right way, and that helped us get through a lot of that stuff. So
So in a way, COVID really helped you
it did.
decide on your model for,
Yeah, I mean, it poked holes in any business, right? Because it's just people were basically just throwing money at you, saying, "I just need cabinets," or "I want them," and money was everywhere. So it was just, so we've seen both aspects where it was just like, people with the starting this in the downturn of the market and then going through COVID, who would have ever thought? But it's just it definitely, it poked holes in any business, and we just made sure we zipped those up and made it as streamlined and efficient as possible.
so how did you even figure out where your holes were?
Well, it just sees where either clients were getting stuck, the designers were getting bogged down, our process wasn't as streamlined. There were too many offerings in our showroom, so it would just like it would make the whole process more complex and confuse people more, because a lot of times customers, it's an overwhelming thing to do your kitchen, right? There's a lot of options, there's a lot of things to do. So our whole goal is we restructure our showroom so then when a customer walks through, they can almost self-educate at that time. So it really helps, it helps getting somebody from A to Z as quickly and efficiently as possible, but also educating them so they feel confident with what they chose.
Oh, I love that. Using what what was a worldwide pretty much disaster and turning it into,
Hmm.
okay, let's really look at our business from all angles and see how we can
Yep.
make this work better for everyone.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. It's super important. And if you're staying still, you're somebody's going to pass you. So you got to keep moving and kind of keep always looking at your business, figuring out how efficient you can make it and what's new out there and what to do and what not to do is always super important.
So was there anywhere in the process from when you started to now that you would consider the hardest financial decision that you had to make?
Good question. Um, I mean, I do think a lot of people don't understand when you do franchise that it costs you a lot more to just get to like the franchising stage of your business. So that was pretty tricky. I do think like hiring managers and that sort of thing. So it's just like we're not in the day to day. And that's one of the things that did have to change in the mind shift when we did franchise model, where it's just like you're working on top of the business and not inside of the business anymore. It's like a business on top of a business. So that's just what's a little tricky. And it is expensive because there's different things that you have to do. And I think a lot of people underestimate that. But we did have some franchise advisors, some local people that actually do, helped with Rita's Water Ice, Hollywood Tans, like some pretty big names out there that helped us actually get through it as well. So, but we know some pretty cool people in franchising now, and we lean on those resources too.
So how did you even decide, okay, I think franchise is the way to go and even get
Yeah.
started with that?
Yeah. I mean, we always just knew that this could be bigger, and we knew that it's kind of something that's missing in the marketplace. So that's where it's just like there's such an opportunity and a hole in this market for somebody that just does what we do. And marrying that with our passion for like helping other people, I just felt like that kind of collided, and that's where it was the not next logical space to go with franchising.
Okay. And and obviously you had some social proof going because
Yeah,
you had
exactly. Yep,
three locations and people were constantly coming saying, "Hey,
exactly. Yep.
help."
Yep, exactly. Yep, definitely.
So what does the financial success look like? Not just your business, but also for you personally.
Um, I mean, really, I would say that it has a lot to do with my flexibility and my ability to control my schedule as well. So it's not necessarily money. There's other things that I do find valuable when it comes to like success. So I think a lot of it is being able to go, to the kids' games and creating my schedule and doing what I want when I want. But that you need to make money and you need to help other people. So it's being accessible. But you know, so we're right now on that level where it's just like we're heavy investing in our team and building and trying to grow to that, like getting to that national franchise level. So that's where it's just like right now there's always seasons in your business where it's just like you have to heavily invest and kind of put your head down, and we're just kind of coming out of that spot right now where we're trying to get out there and like now kind of blossom out of this space to then execute a lot of the things that we've come up with. So
And how are the your current franchisees taking all the, well, I'm guessing there's changes that you're looking to implement as well, or just
Um,
in
we've done a lot
general?
of them. Yeah, we've done a lot of them prior to anybody opening up locations. So it's just like there's not a lot of changes, but anything we do always change. It's always important to let everybody know the why and what's happening and what we've experienced at our corporate locations. So then we have a lot of testing that we can do at our locations prior to executing, and we could always tell them the challenges and the ups and downs that we've already gone through in order to execute this. So that's what's super important in keeping our locations.
Yeah, and I'm sure that a lot of people, that's kind of why they go into franchising too, is that
Hmm.
there's that corporate parent that can tell you,
Yep,
hey, this worked, that didn't work. Yeah,
exactly.
and stay way away from this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just you're 15 years ahead. I mean, I can't tell you any business that I know that has done a straight line or a straight curve up line, right?
Mhm.
Where they've just been like instant success, right? So it's just like there's always stories and always reasons and always things that are done on purpose, right? And we're able to tell why because we've been through it.
Yeah, and like you say, that there's no such thing as an overnight success, even though it may
Mm-mm.
look that way, is that
Yeah.
like you say, there's all these pieces that had to come into play and
Yep.
different things you tried, and then here you are, and now you've got this great
Yep.
franchise, you've got everything going for you, and it may look like from the outside, wow,
Yeah.
Diane, overnight success.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what I think a lot of people underestimate. And I think that's what's so valuable in franchising is because you start ahead, right? And I think people underestimate, I mean, it does take work as well. So it's just like you are getting a business on a platter, but you still got to drive it. You still got to drive that ship. And we're just giving you the vehicle and the all the things you need to be successful, and the support and training. So it's at the end of the day, you get that vehicle. And if you're a good driver, you're going to take off.
And so have all of the franchisees been successful?
I mean, all of our locations are successful. So, I mean, we've been pretty successful and we're just looking to keep growing.
Very nice, very nice. So when it comes to that, you said that now that you're a franchise or that
Hmm.
there's like two levels to your business. You've got the corporate
Yeah.
location, but you also have the I have to keep track of the franchisees
Hmm.
and helping them. So
Yep.
how has that changed maybe your management style?
Yeah, it's a lot of touching base and making sure, nobody's getting quiet for no reason. And just talking through things and making sure that we're communicating and, um, not worrying about or making small things big and just talking through about how you'll get through this. There's ups and downs in every business. And, um, you know, it could be a little slow this month, but then it picks up like crazy the next month. But it's all about also just telling everybody you're going to get out what you put in. So it's just like if you're putting it in and you're putting in that effort and you're laying that foundation, it's going to pay off later. And it's all about building relationships in our business because we are that B2B model where you have that we do deal with the client, but it's like a B2B to C model. So it's just, laying that foundation with contractors and builders and interior designers is huge, especially from the beginning. So it's just like if you keep laying that foundation, you'll have success later on.
So what would you tell a woman that's just starting out thinking about creating her own business or going the franchise route?
I would say reach out and try to make connections wherever you can and try to talk to people that have done it. Going to some of these conferences or going to some of these places and just talking to a lot of people, but also just doing it. Going through everything. You can't wait for everything to be perfect or life to be perfect. It's just like having a baby. It's never going to be perfect timing. It's just you got to just go in and figure it out as you go. So it is all about taking the leap, but making those connections and not being afraid to talk to people that have been through it, I think is huge.
And any suggestions for someone that's thinking, I think I want to start a business, but they're not even sure what they want to do yet?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's where I think the franchising is a good route where there are coaches and brokers and that sort of thing that'll actually talk through it with you. They'll interview you, they'll give you questionnaires, they'll figure out your style and what you like, and then kind of guide you through what would be important for you or the best business that you could help grow. Worst case, you don't even buy a franchise. Maybe you decide I just want to do this on my own, but I think it would help guide you into who you are, even taking some tests on your strength and weaknesses and understanding like what your strength is. Are you a good salesperson? Are you going to be good at being face to face with people? Are you, we did take the DISC test for a lot of our staff members, and it's just understanding your personality types. And it's funny because there is a difference in business versus personal. So those are two different things because you could be a little different during business and be a little more structured and then be a parrot in real life, but it all depends. So it's important to I think know yourself and understand what makes you tick because at the end of the day, business can get difficult. So you got to make sure that you have a little bit of that passion and that drive inside you to be able to do it.
And that's such good advice because like you say, there's a lot of people that get fed up with corporate and
Hmm.
maybe quit their job and say, I'm going to start my own business. I could do
Right.
a better job. But like you say, if they haven't taken those personality tests and really leaned in and figured out
Hmm.
who am I? Could I
Yeah.
really do this? Am I because when you're an employee, you do this one little job. When
Hmm.
when you own your own business, it's you.
Yep. Definitely. Exactly. Yep. Yep. Definitely. So it is important.
So if you don't do the sales, oops,
Yep.
there's no money coming in.
Exactly. Yep. Definitely.
So was there ever a moment where you said, you know, I haven't really understood money before, or when I was a kid, I had all these weird stories about, people have money, are greedy or evil or something, and then you started your own business and realized, oh, I got to get rid of some of this stuff because the business isn't doing so well with all these weird things going on in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so when I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money. My parents were always like scraping by, especially owning like a business and everything and like just working for the parents. And it's just, we were always scraping by. My husband as well, he, was living in a trailer in upstate New York at one point, so we've always, I grew up with my mom, big couponer and everything. Um, but I mean, I have grown up always trying to find value and dig for value, but at the same token, it's been a little tricky to realize, sometimes taking that time is money. To find that value. So you got to understand, in business and wrapping it up, sometimes there's a few things that you have to look at. If you want to grow quickly, you have to buy that time or buy those resources in order to do it, or you're going to do it on your own and it's going to take a little bit longer. So there's just these different aspects of learning through business. When is the time to invest more, or for us to take the time to do it, or when is important for us to use our knowledge that we know? And a lot of that stems to like, we know cabinetry, you know, there's no sense in me learning extra things about marketing or even accounting. Obviously, you need to know the basics and like your financials and everything, but it's just like making sure you find those resources sometimes that are those subject matter experts to, first of all, learn off of as you're doing it, and then becoming more educated and using your resources like YouTube or, Instagram, or following these people that can really help you.
And that is such wise advice because, like you say, if you're just abdicate, and maybe that's a strong word, but still, if you decide that I'm going to hire this team and let them
Hmm.
handle the money, and then you don't really understand what it is they're doing, how do you know if the business is doing well?
Yeah. But you can't do everything on your own. So it's just like, it's always that balance of figuring out, what is important to know. Obviously, money is very important to know. But at the same token, you got to know when to, like, this one franchisor, he owns multiple brands. And we were talking with him, and he's just like, you got to know when to put down the paintbrush. He's a painter.
Ah,
So, so you just, and I keep telling that to my husband sometimes. I'm like, do you need to put down the brush? So it's always knowing when to do, what you need to do, when you need to do it. And you're never going to get it right every time. But it's always important to sit and learn from what you've done. And if you did do something wrong, it's learning from it, absorbing from it, figuring out how you could have done better, figuring out what not to do in the future, and then moving on. Because if you sit there and you dwindle on it too long, it's just going to become, it's going to eat you alive. So at the end of the day, you got to move forward, because that's where money is. That's where like being a business owner is.
oh, absolutely. And like you say, if you don't understand what's going on, the educate time to get us some education, uh,
Hmm.
or find the right resources,
Yep.
and
There's
there's
so many
plenty.
resources out there. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's you'd be silly not to look for resources or talk to people, because it's just, there's so many people are giving away free stuff now in order to get you to follow them even more. So it's just like, there's just so much information. But keep in mind, do need to take some of it with a grain of salt, because not everybody's an expert.
True. And so how did you figure out who were the right people for you to be talking to in order to start your franchise and move forward with it?
So you don't always talk to the right ones, but it's always talking through it and seeing through what they're saying. Not always taking everything for face value, right? Because you got to think about it in your system, your way of the way you want to run your business. Because there's people out there that'll just sell franchises to anybody, and it's just like, well, that's not going to make everybody successful. So it's just, you know taking everything with a grain of salt, but also listening and trying to evaluate what could work for you, not taking everything and necessarily running with it right away. Maybe there's ways of you dabbling in it, figuring it out, working it, molding it to what you need for your business and yourself.
So, do you believe that women should always have money of her own?
Um, Probably. My husband and I, we got married. We're going to be going, what is it, 19-year anniversary this year. So, we were old fashioned and we've just kind of, from the beginning, he was 19, I was 20. It's just, went with a younger man. But we've always just kind of shared our resources. But I would probably say this day and age, I would suggest obviously doing that. But we built this together. So at the end of the day, it's both of our business. And we've kind of done it together. So, I am a little bit old fashioned with that kind of stuff, but I do believe, having something for yourself, especially when people are, getting married so much later in life too. It's just important to create your nest egg as you're growing.
Oh, I love that story. That I hadn't realized that you were so young when the two of you got together, and
Yeah.
you've been growing this business since. That's amazing.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I know, right? I always say it's like in dog years. We're married in dog years. Because when you work together every day, it's like it's a lot more time, like being together so much hours and everything.
Hmm. And yeah, when you're together, like you say, when you're together that much, it either strengthens the relationship
Mm,
or it doesn't.
yeah. Well, and there's ups and downs in that, just like business, right?
So if you had one message you could give to women listening today about owning their own financial independence, what would it be?
Taking a look at yourself and figuring out what you can do to do that, right? And just thinking about what excites you, what do you have passion for, what do you want to do with your life, and what do you want in your future, what are your goals, and putting that goal and writing it down and putting it in front of you every day so then you can see it. I actually have little sayings on my phone because you could put photos in a section of my phone, and there's little sayings every day that come up that are inspiration for me. But it's always important to have that one thing that you really want to shoot for and keep having it in front of you, because then it's going to like really transpire and you're going to bring it to life as if you keep seeing it every day and you know what you're pushing for.
So, was there one financial decision that you think every woman should make before she really feels ready for it?
Um, the probably at least knowing what your expenses are and what your minimum is, I feel like, and understanding what you need to get by and what you can invest in order to move on to your future that you want.
So, thank you so much for joining us today, and a huge thank you to Diana Simmons.
Mm.
It was amazing to talk about cabinetry and building wealth, as well as figuring out how to use a franchise,
Yeah.
because that might be the answer for a lot of you that are thinking,
Yeah.
maybe I would like to start a business, but you're not sure what to do or how to do it. And I really love the having that support that Diane is talking about, so that you don't have to do it all yourself.
Mhm.
So if you found value in this conversation, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the Empowered Money Girl with your friends. The more we spread these stories, the more women we can empower to live boldly, both financially and in every part of life. Until next time, keep thriving. And remember, your journey to empowerment starts with you.